I know what you're thinking. Swedish just uses the same alphabet as English. But you're wrong, because in Swedish we have more letters. In Swedish, all vowels are what they call in German Selbstlaute. Self sounds. I'm using the German term here because it's very descriptive. So it only has one sound, A. But it can actually have different sounds. You can check out my crash course on Swedish pronunciation here. B, which is both in English and Swedish pronounced like B. You know what comes next. We have C, which can be pronounced like a voiceless S or a K. D, which is like in English a D sound. E, not E. F, that's pretty much like in English. G, it's never pronounced like J, it's pronounced like G or sometimes like Y. And again, I recommend you watch my crash course in Swedish pronunciation after this video. H, it is in fact pronounced like H, but we don't say H, which comes from Latin. We say H, I. And as you now know, it only has one sound. E. It's not I, which are two sounds, right? And then I have another surprise for you. I give you Y. And Y is a half vowel just like Y in English. So it's always pronounced Y, except for in the word journalist, journalist. But that's French's fault. K, which is pronounced like in English, except for when it isn't. Then we have M and N. U is also not a diphthong like in English. It's not O, it's U. And sometimes it's O. Whatever. Then we have P. Then we have one that we can pretty much disregard. It's Q. Q. We don't use it in Swedish. However, we use it in some names, so we still cling on to it. R. R. This letter can have a bunch of different pronunciations in Swedish, but this is about the alphabet, and when we say the alphabet, we say R. Then we have S, and it's always voiceless, so it's never gonna be Z. Then we have T, and lucky for us, the beverage is also called te in Swedish, just like tea is also tea in English. Fun fact, U, and I've made a video about this. Basically, maybe it was my first or second video, I made a video on U. U. You're doing great, guys. We're almost done. Next, we have V and W. And as you can hear here, W is not a double U, it's a double V in Swedish. And the reason I talk about these together is that they both produce a V sound. W is another one of those letters we don't really need in Swedish. We have V, right? But we cling on to it for certain names and loan words. Now, everyone, we are closing in on the finish line. We can see the finish. We have X, which produces a X sound in Swedish. We have Y, which is not a half vowel in Swedish. It's Y. Z. It's the one with the coolest name so far, isn't it? We could use S for this. We don't need Z, but we have it for zebra, for instance. And now we're done with our alphabet. What's that? We got 3 more letters! So the Nordic languages have an additional 3 letters in the alphabet. They don't necessarily look the same, and they don't have the same placement in all languages, but they basically sound the same. In Swedish, we have O. It's not an A and should never, ever be confused as an A. It's O. A is also an A, but with 2 dots. And this one should also never, ever be confused with A. It's A. is the last letter in the Swedish alphabet. It's an O with 2 dots and should never ever be confused with an O. This is why we never say A to Z or a Z in Swedish. We say A till Ö.